Okay, so let's start from the beginning. Firstly, I appreciate all of you in the comments. It's so nice to see you all. It's nice to have this video, nice to chat with you guys. If I can help you in any other way during this live stream, please let me know. Tag me at the Tech Notice in there, and then my channel goes kind of orange, and then I can see now. So seems like everything's good now. Wirehead's there. I can see Cheeks, they're there. All my UK people who are watching this. It's absolutely rainy day today, and it's horrendous outside. But firstly, I appreciate the 225k subscribers here, and we're going to be doing something interesting today. We're going to be testing out this Dell laptop here. This is, if you haven't seen yet, the first impressions and the unboxing and a little kind of overview of this. I highly recommend checking this out. The link is in the description below. If you haven't checked that one out yet, feel free to do that. Contact, maybe true, maybe it is. Yeah, I'll have to double check that. Thanks for the tips, guys, about the audio. I still haven't exactly set up everything in here, so it's still a bit of a work in progress. And 1 second. Yeah, there we go. And okay, let me get my thoughts back. So this is one of the most interesting laptops that I have actually tested, seen. Sorry about the wire. Just before this, I realized that this mouse battery is actually dying. So let me see if it is charged already. How much do we have? Still 5%. That's no good. Ah, okay. Seems like it's 100%. Well, that's good. Now we don't have to this wire in here. It's a little bit all over this intro. But what I want to say is that it's very hard to know how the laptop performs in video editing if you haven't actually tested it live on any of these codecs. That's exactly what we're going to be doing. The interesting thing about this Dell laptop is that I bought this for around $1,000, which is absolutely insane. Such a good price for what it is. And you'll see in some of the videos coming up, this actually beats the Dell XPS 16, which is like 3 times the price, which absolutely blows my mind. So we're going to do that in a minute. But before that, a quick message from our sponsor. This video has been brought to you by Asus ProArt PZ13, the ultra-portable AI laptop for creators with military-grade durability, professional OLED display. Oh, and did I mention that the keyboard and the screen also detach for ultimate portability, and much more. Go check out our whole playlist and the full overview in the video description below. Thanks Asus ProArt for sponsoring this part of the video. Okay, Lorenzo is saying, when can we expect Lunar Lake reviews? They're coming out soon. I've seen some Asus ones. When we were at IFA, I managed to see some of the Asus ones, and there's some absolutely exciting things coming. But so far, we're checking out the previous generation. Also, a little heads up what's going on. I'm testing the Ryzen 9000 at the moment, but because a lot of things have changed on Intel's side and some of the benchmarking side, I'm going to have to rerun basically everything again in order to give you good data of which one is better and all. So I can't use some of my old data anymore. So all of that needs to be repopulated. So even though my 9900X is actually benchmarked, I can't tell you how good this is until I've retested some of the other ones. And it's going to take a bit of time. And now looking at the new Intel, what is it? Lunar Lake? Yeah, Lunar Lake actual desktop CPUs are coming out as well. So then we're going to have to testing all of this as well. This is coming out soon. But this is what we have going on in here. Let me put myself in that corner. So if you have any other questions, again, let me know in the comment section below. But this is what's going on the screen here. So we see the task manager here. Let me just show this here first. So we'll talk through the specs of this little laptop here. We've got the Intel Core Ultra 7155H, which is not like a new CPU anymore. The next generation is going to come out, but the good thing is the pricing for these are going to go down even more now when the new comes out, and they're absolutely fantastic. I have upgraded the RAM to 64 gigabytes. It came with 16, but because it's got SODIMM slots, it's so easy to upgrade, which you'll see if you check out the video in the video description below. You'll see how I managed to do that. It was very, very easy. We've got 1 terabyte SSD, which seems to be the WD-SN740. And I've got all the benchmarks and all the files on the actual, this internal SSD. We've got the ARC graphics that's integrated. We've got the NPU on the CPU as well, and a mobile RTX 4060 laptop GPU. But this one gets 60 watts delivered to it, which means that, okay, let me just take all of this away so you can actually see the GPU, some of these things as well. The GPU pulls, as you can see right now, we've seen this is 54. It's maxed at 54, but it can actually pull about 60, which is very interesting. So I'm going to pull this back somewhere over here. Okay, how do we do this? Yeah, let's put this here so you can see, well, these we don't actually need to see. So we want to see if it has been thermal throttling or when it is thermal throttling. And then we want to see this, and we want to see what are we actually using. Are we using the GPU, CPU, what's being used? Okay. So then we've got the project timeline, different timelines here, and we're going to start going through different footage, different codecs, different frame rates, which actually is going to show you how does it handle certain things on Premiere Pro. So let me just open all of these timelines. If you are watching this live right now, let me know which codecs are you using, or which one is the most important for you. Now let me see if I can link media, locate. Okay, now everything should be linked up. Alrighty, so this is the first codec, what we can see here. This, by the way, I'm using this on the best performance mode. It's plugged in, it's not on battery, and then we can actually go even on this my Dell and then up the performance even more. So when we go power, and then we're gonna go like ultra performance here. I can hear the fans going a little bit higher, but at least, I mean, the laptop, some of this is like very, very warm already, but at least now we're gonna get the best performance out, okay? So this is Sony A7S III, 8-bit 420 60 frames per second, and I'm going to put the drop framed indicator here as well. And the way Premiere Pro works, if you're not familiar with this video editing application, is that it actually plays back, as you can see here, I've selected it at full, which means this codec, this footage, whatever is on the timeline, it tries to play it back in all of its glory, okay? So here this one goes at 60 frames per second. It's an 8-bit 420. The chroma subsampling is very important as well, because some of the different chroma subsampling can be accelerated on the CPU, some of it on the GPU. So we'll see if we can get hardware accelerated playback. That's why I've got the task manager open on this side, so you can easily see, okay, look, we're playing this back on the Intel GPU or on the NVIDIA GPU. By the way, if you haven't liked this video yet, hit that like button. It actually does make a difference. Thumbs up, I'd appreciate that. And let me see if we can get there again. If you haven't subscribed yet, consider subscribing, but I believe you are all subscribed. Now, we'll go on to this first clip here, and I'm scrolling through this, and I can see that it's very, very smooth. We're playing back full resolution. I can press play here on the timeline. It just works really, really well. And can you see we're playing back on hardware here on the GPU. We're decoding the footage in there. As you can see, wait a second, let me just plug it a bit like that. Okay. So, you see video decoding. Oh, and let's put this like that as well. What the GPU is doing is actually playing back this on the top here. This adjustment layer has a few like color grading effects back, so that just to make it a little bit more realistic, because like if people just want simple footage, they're not going to be clicking through or like editing it like that. Everybody has a little bit of color grading, and when I'm moving the timeline around here, you can see it's GPU accelerated. The Intel iGPU is playing it back. Interestingly, we are kind of thermal throttling at some points, but it's very, very smooth. So 4K 8-bit 420 60 frames per second, you shouldn't have any issues. Even when having color grade on, it's very, very smooth, very instant. I've got no issues. Next we have 10-bit 24 frames per second. So, and this is H.265. And when I'm taking this off, if I'm pressing go, because this is 420 H.265, it is also accelerated on the iGPU. And if you've got an NVIDIA or AMD GPU, CPU, then they can't do that. This is the benefit of having Intel CPU. You can see the playback in here. At full resolution, it plays it back very, very smooth. Even with the color grade, when I'm pressing play, it looks very, very smooth to me. I've got absolutely no problem. I've got the NVIDIA Studio drivers here as well. There we go. Now, let's go to the next one. So this is 10-bit 422 30 frames per second H.264. So this now, when I'm going to press play, see how the CPU suddenly is doing all the heavy lifting. The iGPU is not doing much. Still tries to decode. That's probably like what we've seen on the screen, or it's sending it over HDMI. But as you can see, the CPU is, can you see, a lot more utilized there. And going quite hot, 93 degrees, 32 watts. It seems like it did drop, okay, one frame, that is nothing. Smoothing through. This is quite a heavy thing to actually edit, 422 30 frames per second, H.264. But I'm very happy with the performance. It really can keep up with it, absolutely no problem. Putting color grade on as well. No problem. Not sure if you can hear that. Can you hear the fans on the audio? It's getting hot now. Okay, moving on. Different codecs now on mirrorless camera codecs. So the footage that I'm showing you is from this camera. Leave it here, the Sony a7S III. And this here is all intra. And this one here is just normal H.264 10-bit 422, which is CPU. Both of these are actually CPU accelerated. So as you can see, CPU pegged to 100% and then kind of went down to 50, look, about 50, 60%, 25 frames per second, playing it back. Now, just have a look what happens with the CPU as we're changing the clips from the long GOP to all intra. Did you see we dropped from like 60 to 20 to 30? As you can see, it was playing it back over there like that, and then now lower, because that is a lot easier on the system. It doesn't have to like look at the frame like a combination of frames. It looks at them separately because every frame is individually encoded, or recorded is probably the best way of saying it. So scrubbing through, this is very, very smooth, but then going on the other side, that's got long GOP. Can you see how this is so choppy, 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 choppy? When you're pressing play, it took its time and then started playing. A few frames dropped, but still like completely doable. Now we are absolutely pegging the device because we're using this at full resolution. So it tries to play back 4K footage. But when you're editing, you're not going to see the 4K. You're going to probably put it at quarter resolution, and the experience is going to be a lot better. Yes, they can hear the fans. I can see that. Okay. Now this is 60 frames per second H.264. But it's 422, so the frame rate is gone a little bit higher. This is played back on the CPU, and as you can see, our CPU is trying to play this back about 50, 60 watts. That's a little bit heavy. Can you see? Look at the utilization there. And when we put the color grade on as well, it does play back 60 frames per second though. But we are thermally throttling. Look, 101 degrees. Woo! We are really cooking this guy. Let's move on. So this is H.265 420, which will be accelerated on the GPU. At least it should be. Let's have a look. Oh, they're still using the Intel iGPU to play that back. That's fine, because the iGPU has more codec options than NVIDIA 4060. So look at that. Our GPU is pulling about 45 watts when playing this back. Oh, come on. I think it's 50 frames per second. It's very good. Now, this is an interesting one here. This is the Canon R5 H.265 60 frames per second 10-bit 422. This is a right cracker of a codec to actually edit, playback, and if you've got an NVIDIA or AMD device alone, this is not possible. Even a Threadripper 64-core $10,000 CPU is not going to play it back as well as this laptop with the Intel iGPU. So let's press play. Can you see the iGPU here? 100% utilized to play this back. Okay, we've dropped 21 frames, but that's not too bad. The NVIDIA GPU is actually trying to also play back the color grade. And now when we're doing this, oh, the screwing is so smooth. You can't believe it. This is insane. So good and so easy. And you can see it gets played back on the iGPU. This is like buttery smooth, like the smoothest one out of them all, because it can be utilized or accelerated by the GPU. Now, look at this. If I only had 32 gigabytes of RAM, look at the RAM utilized here, 43 gigabytes used. So as a creator, if you're doing video editing, please get more than 32 gigabytes. I'd say 64 is the minimum that you should be getting, just to actually have a bit of breathing room in terms of RAM. This is a bit heavier codec now, so I'm curious what's going to happen when I'm going to press play. This should be only accelerated on the CPU. CPU 100% utilized. 130 watts, 150 watts pulled. Oh my goodness. CPU package, we're pushing 84 watts, 85 watts to play this back. But interestingly, we're not dropping any frames. This is Canon C200 RAW. And look at the CPU utilization. Just 100%. Every bit of power you have is getting played back. Look at that. The Intel iGPU just adds so much. So when we're looking at the actual codec here, I think this is, look, this is DCI 4K. So a little bit more pixels than usual UHD. 60 frames per second. And this is all raw. And it plays it back at full resolution, which is insane for a laptop. You're thinking, oh my goodness, how is this possible? Again, highly because of the RAM capacity and the iGPU, even though this codec particularly wasn't accelerated on the iGPU. This is Red 4K RAW, and usually it's quite an easy codec to edit. Pressing play, it's absolutely fine. Plays it back, no problem. NVIDIA GPU, as you can see, is really giving it a good hand there. Absolutely no problem if you're thinking about Red 4K RAW. And Wirehead is right. The Intel iGPU adds an absolute boost for video editing. Now, this is 120 frames per second, and this is where I'm going to expect this to absolutely drop the ball. I've never seen any machine play back this 120 frames per second, no matter how powerful this is. I do believe that Premiere Pro has, well actually, let's have a look if it's quarter resolution. It's still, look, 7 frames dropped. This screen panel actually is 120 hertz? 144 hertz? I've forgotten now. $120 hertz, yep. But I've never seen it play back like that. This is always a bit choppy. Let's go full resolution. It does it, it's doable, you can edit it, but just don't expect all the 120 frames to be played back. I don't think Premiere Pro can really push it as well to 120. It's going to be capped just because the way they've programmed it. 5K Red RAW, CPU, on the CPU, let's have a look. Only 5 frames dropped. And the NVIDIA iGPU is playing it, or helping to play it back. Look at that. Whoa, the laptop surface is very, very hot. We are thermal throttling, but it plays back Red 5K RAW, which is insane. Red 6K. Yeah, no, look at that. We're dropping frames constantly while playing this back. NVIDIA GPU is absolutely pegged. Look, we're pushing 60 watts through. Yeah, okay, 6K is a bit of a... Well, look at that. quarter resolution actually does work. So if you're doing the 6K, this is completely fine. This is Red Komodo, I believe. See, still loses a few frames even at quarter resolution, but very powerful. 6K B raw, that feels very, very easy. 2 of them together, 3 of them together. We like a bit more RAM, 34 gigabytes, but it does a good job. Whoa, dropped a few frames. Why is it dropping frames? Oh, the laptop surface is so warm. Okay, moving on to Canon 5K, sorry, R5 8K. This is gonna absolutely actually quite good for half the resolution. CPU is 100% utilized though. Yeah, interesting. Red 8K. Let's press play. Wait a second. Full resolution, please. Let's first do without the color grade. No. What's the bottleneck? Probably the GPU. Look at that. It's just can't quite do 8K at full resolution. Let's see half. See, this works. And half the resolution, this is incredibly smooth. Even with a color grade. And pressing play, this is insane. I know it says dropped a few frames, but that was just in the beginning. We're not adding any more frames, so that looks good. Okay, and now we have 12K B raw. By the way, if you have any questions, if you joined the live stream, welcome. Leave your questions in there again. What is the most exciting tech thing that you are, expecting or looking forward to? This is 12K B raw with the color grade at quarter resolution. Nope. Definitely not moving. Nope. Quarter resolution just doesn't do it either. Let's try 1/8. So, not really. 12K can't quite edit, but we're not done yet. Now we are actually going to go to DaVinci Resolve. Let's open our DaVinci Resolve playback and try that. Now, DaVinci Resolve actually works slightly differently because the... come on. Okay, we'll have to put that out a bit more. There we go. So, firstly, we've got the 4K 30 frames per second timeline. 1 second, I'm going to take my hoodie off because this is boiling in here. Still here, haven't gone anywhere. Okay, see. Welcome back. So I'm not getting demonetized for some nudity. The way DaVinci Resolve uses or plays back this footage is like you have to set the timeline resolution, and if you change it, it's going to start or try to confirm everything to it. So what I mean by that is if we go to, oh, it's a little bit, hey, if I'm going to make it smaller. Okay, there we go. Here you can see the timeline's been set to UHD 24 frames per second. That's what everything, what we're trying to do on all of these codecs. We've got a very good comment here that says sometimes 2-3 clips can be read in full resolution, but for a big project with just some transitions or titles and color grading, it all falls apart. And I absolutely got to agree with you. We've got an editing machine there with 13900K, 1490, 128 gigs of DDR5, and even just some simple transitions, depending like which ones you use, can absolutely clog the machine. So it depends like absolutely on your workflow and what you're doing. So that massively changes the performance, what it could be. So right now we've got, let's take the color grade off. Okay, here just scrubbing through, it's not particularly good. Well, it's about the same as Premiere Pro for 30 frames per second. Actually, this is smoother here, 30 frames per second. It's a lot smoother. Let's see what it's using. I bet it's automatic decode options is Intel and NVIDIA. If we undid NVIDIA, well, we'll see later on if it chooses the right encoder. 30 frames per second, 422 10-bit is absolutely no problem. The 25 frames per second, 422 10-bit is okay. Not as smooth as the 30 frames per second because it has more frames, I guess, to look at the footage. And then SI, which is a little bit easier on the CPU. Let's play that back. Yep, seems fine. Now, if you put a bit of color grading on, which is here a simple color grade, there's curves, lot 1, lot 2, and noise reduction. Then look at the NVIDIA GPU now. Yikes! Yep, the 4060 is not quite enough for all of the DaVinci Resolve demands. Let's take a look at 60 frames per second. Again, we've got the color grade on. No color grade on. Footage looks perfect. I'd say slightly better performance than on Premiere Pro. 422 10-bit is not moving at all. That feels a bit choppy, even though it should have double the frame rate. Flipping heck, look how hot we are, 102 degrees. 50 frames per second. So I'm curious what's going to happen here now. So I'm going to press play. Yeah, look at that. I think it's... Is it trying to use the NVIDIA? Actually, it's using the Intel one, which is correct one. Interesting. I expected it to be a bit worse than what it is. This is actually very, very good. Flipping heck, I can't believe this is only $1,000 laptop. That is insane. So we've tried, let's try this as well. 4K 60 frames per second. One is 420, one, so 8-bit 420, no problem. 422 10-bit. No good. Okay, let's try 4K Red Raw. Very, actually, yeah, very good. Let's press play. No problem. 4K Red Raw, I'd say no problem. Where is our 6KB Raw? Hey, what's going on in here? Don't think it's working properly. I know it is. The 6KB Raw should be quite simple. If you put the color grade on, then you can see that the GPU is going to 100%. People say always stick to 1080 timeline in Resolve though. Yeah, great tip, and that's what I think people should be doing. But I'm trying to push these devices maximum and then see how do these compare to Premiere Pro. I would say that the B-Raw 6K was a bit smoother on Premiere Pro. Actually, it's not too bad either. Very, very similar. $8K Red Raw. No color coding or color grading. Color coding. No color grading. Yeah, this is very heavy on the CPU. Can you see? Wouldn't edit 8K. And bear in mind, it's playing back 8K on 4K. So what is it? Half the resolution. No, not really. R5 8K, but this is Canon Raw 60 frames per second now. Where is the metadata one here? Oh yeah, so here you can see. Come on, never mind. Little janky there at 8K. Oh yeah. Does it look like choppy to you as well when you're watching this back on YouTube? But this is a bit like jiggy 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 jig jig jig. Can't do it. 30 gigs of RAM used. Is saying like no thanks. I can't do that. Come on. Oh, there we go. Okay, Canon RAW. It's all right. 30 frames per second, not too bad. I'd say better than Premiere Pro. Now finally, 12K. Okay, let's take a look. Oh, it's loading. Oh, it's loading. Now this is like not good, even though we're trying to play this back at 4K. It is not doing it. Less than 1 frames per second, that's like ridiculous. You can't edit with that. So 12K, no problem as well. So then, what is the conclusion for this video editing now? Okay, let's take a look at the temperatures here as well. Let's go there. So as you can see, we've hit 104 degrees. CPU package pulled 94 watts. That's insane. Total system power 154. The GPU is pulled just over 60 watts, which is nice. The Wirehead is saying 8K editing looks like you'll need a 256 gigabyte dual 24 gigabyte GPU rig, at least of 14900K to get it fully rendered at usable speed. Depending, 256 gigabyte dual. No, I think you can do it. I think when you go to desktop, like the 14900K actually can play back the 8K very, very well. And if you go with Ryzen like 9950X, for example, again, it's got so much raw power that it can shoot through the 8K. GPU temperature, max was like 88 at memory junction, and usually just 74, which is not bad at all for this. But it looks like the GPU is heating up the CPU as well. But for $1,000, I can't actually complain about the performance. The performance is insane. And as you can see, highly recommend upgrading the RAM, because that is one of the biggest things that will affect your editing performance. Now, if you want to check out this laptop and what I've made about this laptop, then check out the link in the description below. It is there. And what else? If you have any other questions, let me know right now, because I'll be ending this live stream very, very soon. So it's not going to be very lengthy, but if you have any questions that I could help you with, let me know. The interesting thing is this here costs so much less than this guy here. We're going to be doing this guy as well, testing that one out. This is the Ultra 9 185H, but this, what we have here, is the 155H. And interestingly, the Ultra 9 is a little bit slower in a lot of the cases than the Ultra 7, because the Ultra 7 gets pushed a little bit more power through. But this guy is like 3 times the price, which is very, very interesting. I want to see how that performs in some of the timelines. This looked really, really good at the moment. Let me do one more test and I'll take some of the questions. So I'll put this on so you can see what I'm doing. Where are we? Premiere Pro. We're going to open this. Right. Any other questions? By the way, let me know how it looks, because I think this is the first time I have been streaming 4K, and it looks like I've dropped 0.3 frames during this live stream. Have you, any of you, noticed it? This looks pretty good to me, but I want to know what you've seen and heard. Is it any good? So I'm gonna do a test export here as well, and I want to know how long it would take to export this out. So the settings would be here. YouTube 4K. Okay. We're going to put that into desktop. send media encoder. Now the Intel, you know, when Lunar Lake is coming out, and Ryzen 9000, which one would you choose? Ryzen 9000 or Intel? As a creator, if you're watching this, I'd love to know. So let's close that one. And now let's see what happens when we let this go. Okay, it really utilizes all of the GPU here. 100% 4060 utilized. CPU not so much, and the Intel iGPU not so much either. But looks like it might be able to do it in about 38 minutes. Now this is not particularly accurate because I've only got color grade on half of the timeline, and then the other half it hasn't got color grade. So Wirehead is saying, do you think these lines are aimed more at consumers than pros, or does this sit in the prosumer level in your opinion? These lines, what do you mean by these lines? Like these Inspirion ones versus the XPS one? I think Dell is actually saying that the XPS line is like the creator high-end, you know, like their flagship creator laptop, right? It always has been. And there's a lot of other features about the laptop, not just performance, that makes it a good creator laptop. And the screen, the design, everything here is so much better than this Inspirion, I believe. But the Inspirion has one of the best bang for buck performance on it. So if you just want something kind of budget to get everything done, you just wait for the full video, the XPS versus this one, then you'll see the Inspirion is so impressive in terms of performance if you just put them head to head, especially for like okay, I don't want to say everything because otherwise you'll never want to watch my videos, but you've got to see it. Intel and NVIDIA combo here is necessary for my work, absolutely. Inspirion line, I think this is like the lower end creator laptop. This is the 16 Plus. There is like 2-in-1 and then 16 ones, but I thought this is one of the best ones because it's got a dedicated GPU and a very good CPU, and you can upgrade the RAM plus secondary M.2 slot, but for about $1,000. That's the insane part of it. Now, looks like this rendering here is gonna go on quite a while. The CPU package is quite hot. Oh, now this is interesting. Look at this. The CPU package is only pulling about 30 watts. The total system power, 104 watts, okay? So we're only putting about 25 watts to the CPU, but look at our CPU temperature, 90 degrees, thermally throttling, because they're sharing probably the heat sink. Because look, the NVIDIA GPU is getting 60 watts, but why should our CPU to be 102 degrees at only 20 watts power when it goes to the CPU? That's insane. And another little sneak peek is that the XPS has 4070 and this Inspirion has 4060, and the 4060 actually outperforms the 4070 in there. If you don't believe me, just wait for the video. What do you think of Qualcomm maybe buying Intel? So Qualcomm, I think, is very, very interesting. I'm testing right now this one here. This is, let me go full screen. This is the sponsor of the video, Asus Pro Ad. So they've sponsored some ad spots for the channel that you're probably going to be seeing lots But I'm testing this out, and actually this is very, very interesting device. I think Qualcomm is one of the best things that has happened for the Windows laptops, Windows platform, because that has pushed AMD and Intel to a whole new direction that they weren't before. Previously they were just pushing like how much power they can get out of a laptop. Now suddenly battery life is also important, which we haven't seen before. Have a look at a video that's hopefully coming out tomorrow, and I've got a very interesting another ProArt laptop that is using actually fired Intel. Okay, I'm giving too much away, aren't I? It's very interesting. I think Qualcomm is very, very interesting. Lorenzo Corso Music is saying, I have a 9700K for my music right now, 5.2 gigahertz all-core OC, and it's chugging along, but when would you recommend upgrading? I'm even thinking of going for a Mac Studio or a used 2019 Mac Pro with 28 cores. Now, it depends what you're doing for and which programs are you using for your music production, because there's few thoughts that I have. The Mac Pro is massively overpriced and a waste of money. At the same time, there's certain plugins and programs that have to use that one, and if you go with Mac Studio, it might be fixed now, but when I was doing some research a little while ago, some of the music production studios were using the Mac Pro instead of Mac Studio, even though the Mac Studio is more powerful, but just the way that their projects are saved, they can't open them up on a Mac Studio or like convert them that way. So that's why they're using the Mac Pros. You're using Cubase. That should be also available on Windows, and I do think that Windows offers you a bit of better bang for your buck. I've got to say that. At the same time, Mac Studio is a bit of a plug and play. Now, seems like you're a Windows guy because you've got a 9700K with 5.2 gigahertz all-core OC. That shows that you know what you're doing. You probably should go for a Windows device. I think it's very... Now, just wait when the 15th gen, or the, you know, what they call them now, Core Ultra 200 is coming out. 200... yeah, whatever. I'm a bit confused with Intel's naming as well. But then you'll see some of the performance, I think, is going to be very, very interesting, because Intel's going to bring back like performance per watt. That's what we've seen so far. So that will be interesting. Comparison, Wirehead is saying, any chance of a comparison to the Precision line? So the Inspirion to the Precision line. I think the Precision line is, well, let's take a look at with you. Wirehead is saying refurb 2017 iMac 5K with upgraded RAM and internal hard drives 6 inside. Yes, I built one. Well done. So Lorenzo is saying, would you say Intel or AMD then, because for the music single core score is more important? Because I thought of going for a Mac because I'm in the entire Apple ecosystem. Now, that might change the whole game for you. If you already have an iPad, you've got, you know, a laptop that's already MacBook, you've got an iPhone, then the Mac might make actually sense. Because if you are in the studio, I'm not exactly sure what you're doing on the Cubase. Are you just like, are you recording? Are you mixing? What are you doing on Cubase? I'm curious. It might be easier for you, for example, when you've got your iPad, you can have a secondary screen on there. You can control some of these programs on your iPad as well when you're using, you know, Logic Pro, or I'm not sure if Cubase has also a control for the iPad, but I know Logic Pro has, I think MainStage has as well. So, well, there we go. You've got an iPhone, iPad, MacBook, so it looks like that might be So doing orchestral composition with VST. So I think, do you know what? I might actually push you towards a Mac, just because the rest of the things are in there. It's going to be very, very easy for you to do that, and it's just kind of a plug and play, off you go. And the only thing that's kind of a limiting factor there is you're going to be paying a lot for the RAM and storage. Highly recommend getting external one, if you know what I mean. Have a look at some of my videos about the external storage solutions. But a Mac Studio might be very interesting. I think they're gonna, because we only have Mac Studio for the M2 right now. M2 Max, I think, is the latest one that they have. I think it's due a refresh. We've heard that in October there's going to be new Apple devices, so maybe wait for that. If you're thinking about buying anything, wait for the whole holiday season, because you know, we're probably going to see some deals going in there. Let's take a look. How is our Dell doing here? As you can see, our NVIDIA GPU is still absolutely chucking it along. It's actually still very, very impressive that it does it with that one. Lorenzo is saying, I have an offer open for a 64GB M1 Ultra for 2500, but I don't know if it's worth it. I think okay, so it's upgraded RAM. So what is the upgrade worth? Is it $400? So that takes it to 50, let's say 54, 5500. So it's about half the price. But the M1 Ultra had certain things that weren't as good. I think I would say just wait a little bit, just because the M1 had one of the biggest, like, kind of, they were pushing certain things, and there's most issues there. M2 got a little bit more refined, M3 is even more refined, and now M4 comes out. So now whatever M4 device comes, I think it's going to be a lot better than what you have there. Now it is good price, 2500 kind of for the Ultra Studio, but I'd still wait. I'd still wait. So I'm actually very impressed with this Inspirion. I'm not sure if you are, but actually this is very good. It's very, very solid. We're pushing 60 watts on the GPU, so that's good. It keeps the wattage there, pushes everything you can for the GPU. Okay, there's a few more clips, and then we're actually gonna just wait with me for another 5 minutes, because you'll see once this is, I know this clip is for the color grade. Remember, this is red, 4K now. A few more clips, and then we're gonna get to the non-color graded clips, and that might actually, I want to see what happens with the NVIDIA GPU, and it should actually go to the Intel GPU. But look at that, now suddenly we're pushing CPU as well. Total system power draw 131 watts. Now that is interesting, because the power plug only delivers 130 watts, 140 watts. So we're pushing as much through the power plug as possible, and we're pulling some from the battery because it's not enough. Now it's testing the 5K in there. Oh, there's some more questions. Rahul is saying, do you feel a laptop performance can be as good as a desktop PC in the current time or in the future? No, definitely not. I am a strong believer in the desktop, because I've seen what we've tried to edit. I'm not sure if you've seen any of the, like, if you're familiar with the recent uploads on the channel, we went to IFA in Germany and we tried to well, not